Now, after performing their civic responsibilities to choose governors that will pilot their affairs for another 4 years, voters in Bayelsa, Imo, and Kogi states await the outcome of the off-cycle elections. While the Independent National Electoral Commission has uploaded substantial parts of the results on the IREV, collation of results is being awaited before final announcement of the winners. In the face of this, INEC suspended the election in 9 wards in Ogori, Magongo local government area of Kogi State, following reports of fake results sheets completed before voting. These and more developments will form the basis of our discussion as we continue our coverage of the first cycle of the off-cycle, or this first set rather of the off-cycle polls in Nigeria, 8 months after the 2023 general election. Thank you for staying with TVC News. I'm Ibrahim Shita. Now let's continue with some updates on the elections so far. The Independent National Electoral Commission has suspended election in 9 wards following reports from its officials on incidences of electoral malpractices regarding result sheets completed before voting. According to a statement by INEC National Commissioner and member of the Information and Voter Education Committee, Mohammed Kudu Haruna, the incidents occurred in Adavi, Ajaokota, Ogori, and Magongo, Okehi, and Okene local government areas of the state. The statement said the most serious incidents occurred in Ogori, Magongo, which affected 9 of 10 registration areas. The Commission described the incident as unacceptable, as any result not emanating from the process it's conducted in the polling units will not be accepted. The Commission also explained that it is determined not to reward bad behavior. Thus, the election in the 9 wards in Ogori, Magongo, which are Eni, Okibo, Okesi, Ileteju, Ayeromi, Ugugu, Obonoi, Obatame, and Oturu are suspended. It also stated that incidences in the other local government areas have been thoroughly investigated and the outcome will be announced in the next 24 hours. INEC assures that it's auditing its personnel and materials to ascertain those who may be complicit in undermining the process, stressing that appropriate sanctions will be applied where necessary. The Commission also assures voters in the state that their votes are protected and their wishes will be respected. Meanwhile, the All Progressives Congress has faulted claims by the opposition that the staff of the Independent National Electoral Commission failed results sheets. According to the party, no APC member would have filled result sheets, adding that why would the party fill result sheets in their strongholds and not in the other places that are battlegrounds? The party also said it can not fill result sheets in the places where they have massive voter turnout. They said if they want the election repeated in these areas, APC will win over and over. They also alleged the same opposition members might have connived with some officials to do this to discredit the process. All right, let's have a conversation on all of these developing stories with my guest in the studio, Jide Johnson, who is joining me. Thank you so much for joining on the news this time.
You know, with our viewers all over the world. Thank you for having me.
Right, it's been a long day, and you know, Nigerians have been waiting with that bated breath, you know, saying that we want to see exactly what the outcome would be. But then the latest news coming out from Kogi State, where some results sheets were said to have been pre-filled. Now it is common practice for all of the opposition parties to blame the incumbent for perpetrating this act. But then they've also said that they refuted that allegations that they were not complicit, or they are not complicit in this, you know, result. So what do you make of this? Did you find it, you know, suspicious? Do you find it quite intriguing?
I think that we felt that we have gone past this stage of having challenges with respect to conduct of election, an attempt to manipulate the process by the political class in order to achieve their selfish goal. We've seen election conducted across the globe even in one of the largest democracies, when you talk about India, where you have close to 500 to 600 million people voting, and before the end of the day, you get the result of the election, and then you bring it back home to Nigeria, and then we find it so hard to have the result of election that is conducted, that's meant to start by 8:30 in the morning and end by 2:30 p.m. and you expect that by 7 p.m. you should get the result of all the elections, and then we have this kind of challenges. You see, there will always be counter accusations by the various political parties engaged in the process, because the quest for power is, and the stake attached to political power in Nigeria, it's very, 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 very high, and that's why we have these type of challenges we are having with respect to attempts to have result being pre-recorded even before the election. And we thought that the investment that was made by INEC with respect to 2023 election, taking into consideration the 2022 Electoral Act and the introduction of beavers to address some of the challenges we had in 2003, 2007, 2011, we felt all of these things would be a thing of the past. And it's unfortunate that what we thought, the phase and the stage that we think we have gone past, they are still recurring. It has become a recurring decimal, like a hydra-headed monster that has refused to leave the political space. So as far as I'm concerned, I would say that I am disappointed. I'm not surprised because some of the ways to deal with this manipulation is to deploy technology. Technology takes away human. Just look at what has happened to broadcasting in our industry. What has happened to broadcasting? Is it the way we broadcast in 20 years ago? Is this the same thing? Some cameras are not even manned by individual. Once you set up the camera, you put it on automation. Everybody at home will be viewing whatever we are doing. So there's a need for us to deploy technology in order to eradicate this human factor. Human beings will always be human beings. That's just the challenge.
As a matter of fact, it's very good to say, as I didn't fail to mention earlier, that my guest is a chief lecturer, Nigeria Institute of Journalism, and then you made allusion to broadcasting. We've seen the role the journalists have played, over time, especially during this off-season election, giving us with the latest information from there. We got breaking news and all of that. With all of this, with all of the avalanche of information that we got so far from this election, do you feel that Nigeria has really come a long way in ensuring that we have free, fair, and credible elections?
To a large extent, from the report we have gotten, to a large extent, the election was peaceful in terms of the conduct. We only had skirmishes and challenges here and there, particularly across the 3 states that we have. We have had issues with respect to the election. And if you also look at in terms of deployment of the critical infrastructure for the election, the voting materials and what have you, and the commencement of voting, if you check across the 3 states, you discover that it was far better than what we had in February 25th and what we had in March. The major area we have challenges is about securing the election, dealing with the issue of violence. And then if you look at the kind of statement that are released by security agencies prior to the election, by the police, by the army, by various security agencies, you see that assurances are given. Then you begin to wonder, areas where you have these security challenges, are these people ghosts that the security agencies don't have the intelligence or the resources to deal with these particular challenges? But overall, from the reports that we have gathered, we discover that the process is far better compared to what we have, but we still have challenges with the issue of security and attempt by some elements to try to truncate the process. And you can't rule that out. Out of every 12, you must always have a Judas.
So in those who are trying to subvert the integrity of this election, at the end of the day, the blame will always go the blame will always be laid at the doorstep of the Independent National Electoral Commission, whereas it is the Nigerian people that are employed into this institution. But then, does it look like INEC has learned from, you know, the mistakes of the past?
No, you keep still having these challenges, and it's very, very clear, and that's why some of us have argued that there is a need for us to actually make INEC to be independent. INEC to be independent in the sense that probably you give the responsibility of appointment of the national chairman of INEC to National Judicial Council. You take it away. You take INEC from the constitution, from being a certain executive body, which gives the executive the power to appoint both the national chairman and resident electoral commissioner and national commissioners of INEC, because he who pays the piper automatically dictates the tune. So those are the areas that we should be looking at to reform, if in actual sense we want to put in place a free, credible, and elections that will be detached of one from whether direct or indirect political interference. Because if you appoint me into an office, I will study your body language. It's very, very, it's human nature. The second aspect of it is that how does INEC recruit its ad hoc staff? Its ad hoc staff for the election. In the past, INEC used to make use of teachers. And I think that moving forward, I think that the ad hoc staff for the election probably should be from level 10 in the civil service and above. Probably you take people from the civil service.
Would that change anything?
No. Now, that puts their career on the line. Are you getting my point?
But
now
we've seen professors who.
Well, we've seen senior
lecturers.
We've seen. There's no doubt about that. We've seen professors that have compromised the election. But the actual election takes place at the polling unit. Elections are won, and under normal circumstances, elections should be won and lost in the polling unit, because that's the moment you cast your ballot, and at the end of the voting process, we should know the winner. The moment they are counting in this polling unit, they are counting in another polling unit, you should be counting simultaneously. And within 1 hour, we should know who actually win the election. But in Nigeria, elections are not won in the polling unit. Elections are won in the collation centers.
Isn't that a tall order if you want the voting, accreditation voting, and then counting of votes to be done, you know, simultaneously across all the polling units, you know, in all of the states? That's not possible, because the time the INEC officials will arrive, the time people will also come out to exercise their franchise. We saw that people even found it, they didn't come out early enough because of fear of attacks or thereabouts. And when they saw that the coast was clear, they came out to exercise their franchise. So what you're saying now, don't you feel that it's a mirage that may never happen?
You know why June 12 is acclaimed to be one of the freest credible election we have ever had? We adopted open secret ballot. You come for accreditation, and at a certain time, you come for voting, and then you queue behind the candidate. And then you are counted.
Option A4.
Yeah, no, it's not even option. It's open secret ballot. Option A4 is a process which you select the candidates, which goes through 4 process from the ward to the local government to state to national. That's the 4 levels.
That's right.
Before that's the option A4. But when it comes to the balloting system, it was an open secret ballot system whereby you queue behind the symbol. For SDP, it was a stallion. For NRC, it was the eagle. So you queue behind, accreditation was done, then you queue behind the candidate, and it was counted. Everybody was counted openly. And before 5 p.m. that eventful day, everybody knew who actually won the election. Everybody knew. Now, the challenge we have is delaying the collation of results of election. If we count the result of the election polling unit by polling unit, and everybody, and that's what was said that Beavers would do. Beavers will eliminate the human interference and attempt by people to manipulate the process. And I think that's where we need to go. We need to reform this process, this electoral process, and take away a lot of human factor that has bedeviled our system. Election in most developed democracy is like carnival. It's like carnival.
That's right.
Whoever wins the election knows that his mandate comes from from the ballot box. And whoever loses the election knows that, you know what, I have to go back to the drawing board and prepare next for the next election. But a situation whereby it does not come from the ballot box, from the ballot paper, from the people, that's when you begin to have this type of challenges which you have.
All right, Jide Johnson, just hang on. We've got another guest of ours joining us via Zoom, Dr. Nwambu Gabriel. He's the Director General Center for Credible Leadership and Citizens Awareness. Thank you so much for joining us on TVC News. Thank you so much for joining us.
For having me. Good evening.
Great, fantastic. So it shows that you really monitored the election process throughout today, and a lot of intriguing events really sprung up during the election. But talk to us about your impressions so far, comparing how we voted in February, March, and then to, this off-cycle election. What impression did you get from it so far?
Yeah, thank you so much. First of all, at this time, it is pertinent to state very clearly that election is a process. Election is not an event like some people believe. Election actually commences from the date INEC announces or rolls out the timetable for the election. In this wise, if we want to be more specific, the provisions of the Electoral Act 2022, provides for INEC to roll out the timetable at least 360 days, before the date of the election. Now, in Bayelsa State, as it affects this particular election, the Center for Credible Leadership and Citizens Awareness, for which I represent, came early enough to observe the pre-election activities, the election activities, and then post-election. We're going to also be here, to see how people react to the result, before we vacate, leave the town. However, it is pertinent to also state that elections here in Bayelsa State and in some other states, Kogi and Imo states, respectively, there is a significant improvement. Unlike what we had during the presidential election in February 2023, at this time, about 70% of the result has been uploaded, and people are busy. People are collecting results based on what they've seen in INEC IREV, So, but unlike what we saw during the 2023 general elections, the BVAS, as it affects the optimum performance, performed, very well in terms of not disappointing the populace. But here in Bayelsa State, we can say it performed at 99% efficiency. It was only in a particular place called, that is polling unit 003 RA 11 in Kolokoma, Opokoma local government area, that the BVAS technology failed completely. But in no distant time, INEC was able to rally around, got a backup BVAS, and then election continued in earnest. So I would say there is a significant improvement, when you compare these off-cycle elections to the 2023 general election. But however, it's also pertinent to note that INEC is known to perform better in off-cycle elections than the general elections. The truth of the matter is not far-fetched. The general elections it seems to me that INEC is overburdened. The weight of the elections across the 36 states of the Federation is too weighty. And as a result of that, you have lapses of security, lapses in terms of logistics, lapses in terms of, so many other things. If you look behind me here, you see I am at the State Collation Center in Yenegua. And behind me here, you see people still tabulating, collating their results. The returning officer for the state did state very clearly that collation will not continue tonight, that collation will continue by 10 a.m. tomorrow morning.
That's interesting. It's also reported from Kogi State that some places, just a few places where the beavers didn't work and they had to get accredited manually. But all the same, would you say because of the general election, you alluded to the fact that INEC appears to be overwhelmed during this period. What would be your recommendation? Because it is the electoral body, independent as a matter of fact. Is there any other way is there any other thing you would like to recommend for INEC to find it seamless to conduct the election seamlessly in general election?
You see, the problem we've always had in Nigeria is that there are no consequences for offenses, especially during the elections. You see, the essence of laws, the essence of rules and regulations is the intendment actually. It is aimed at that there must be consequences for offenses. The issues we have in Nigeria electoral system is that when, for instance, people are known to have perpetrated electoral-related violence, have unleashed mayhem on a lot of people, have killed people, have instituted violence, have snatched ballot boxes, have engaged in vote buying, you find out that these people go scot-free and they are not arrested. Even when they are arrested, in a matter of a couple of days, some courts will go here and there, and you see the same people moving boldly, on the streets of Nigeria. What is the consequence? The consequence of this is that these people get emboldened. These people get toughened. These people feel now that they are untouchable. So it becomes now like a ritual. They know that nothing will eventually come out of it, even when they are arrested, just to be behind bars for a couple of days, and they will be out. So if there are no consequences for offenses, what do you expect? These consequences are supposed to be intended, to act as a deterrent to intending or future perpetrators of such heinous crimes. Because anybody that engages in electoral-related violence, vote buying, killing and maiming of people, snatching of ballot boxes, it is actually worse than Yahoo. It's actually worse than armed robbery attack. It's actually worse than any form of crime, because an unpopular candidate will eventually emerge out of that process and he will unleash mayhem on the populace of that country.
Before I come to my guest in the studio, I would like to get your overall assessments as regards the voters, the electorate, because we understand that, okay, fine, 8 local governments there in Bayelsa State. The number of those who collected their PVCs vis-a-vis those who came out to exercise their franchise, how impressive was it for you?
No. Comparatively, we can say the turnout was not so impressive. But in Nigeria, really, we've not been able to hit 50% voter participation. From 1999, the return of civil rule in Nigeria, to date, we've never hit 50%. The most we've had was about 36 or thereabout. But the presidential election of 2023, we had an upsurge. People demonstrated that they really wanted to determine who controls the machinery of government as far as Nigeria is concerned. But I would say relatively, it is not impressive when you compare it, the turnout to the total number of persons that have collected their PVCs.
So did you try to speak with them to find out their own reason for not coming out, or those who came out, the reason why others didn't come out, or would you adduce this to the maybe low voter education on the side of the Independent National Electoral Commission?
No, INEC, you see, the truth of the matter is that I expect the major beneficiaries of votes, which is the politicians, to be more committed in encouraging their people to come out to exercise their franchise. It is not all the time we lay all the blames on INEC. INEC is an electoral management body. The essence of INEC is fundamentally to remain unbiased in the conduct of a transparent, free, fair, and credible elections. But INEC cannot go and drag people out of their homes to tell them to come and vote. INEC does engage in voter enlightenment, but they cannot compel people to come and exercise their franchise. However, it is also pertinent to note that INEC is not also a security agency of government. If there are breach of peace somewhere, if there are electoral-related violence, it is not the problem of INEC. INEC is just there to remain unbiased and to conduct transparent, free, and fair elections in Nigeria. But in terms of security, it is the law enforcement agencies that should be blamed. In this wise, the police, the Nigerian police, which is the lead agency in charge of internal security, is expected to be held responsible. Right here in Bayelsa State, we have areas where, in the Nembe area, the Brass areas, where observers were prevented from having access to certain areas. And even the police aided some talks to prevent voters, some certain voters, from coming to exercise their franchise. They know that some persons are inclined probably not to vote for them. So they colluded with some police, in those areas I did mention, in Nembe areas, in the Brass areas, in parts of Southern Nigeria, to prevent people. They prevented people from exercising their franchise. They prevented observers and even INEC accredited INEC monitors from accessing those areas. So we also saw the police that was aiding. They aided them to be sure that the hoodlums and the thugs, achieved their nefarious activities. So this is unbecoming. We expect that at this time of our democratic dispensation, Nigeria is supposed to have outgrown this kind of malhandling or this kind of desperation in terms of our electoral process. However, the organization for which I work for, which is the Center for Credible Leadership and Citizens Awareness, has developed a contingency of, making an appraisal of politicians who aid and abet electoral-related violence, who engage in vote buying, and who mastermind, the prevention of people from exercising their franchise, who have also colluded with law enforcement agents, to prevent voters from exercising their franchise, preventing observers and monitors from accessing some particular polling units. We are compiling their names, and we are going to submit their names with our petitions to the embassies, leading embassies of the world, the US Embassy, the UK Embassy, the French, and so on. We are going to do that, so that they will issue, the intendment is that they will issue a visa ban on them and their families, so that they will know the consequences of, perpetrating such heinous crimes.
Right. I'm actually compelled to, probe further based on these allegations that you just, brought to our hearing at this time. I want you to speak further on this, because these are allegations, and you are also in the process of verifying, because the police and also the security agents or agencies, they said that they will be professional during this election, and what you say somewhat negates what they promised. Were you able to ascertain whether these people are genuine police officers or genuine security agents, during this time?
The truth of the matter is that oftentimes in situations like this, it is difficult for the average citizen of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to ascertain by himself whether these people are genuine policemen or whether they are fake policemen. But the truth of the matter is that they wore the camouflage of the Nigerian police. They were armed with AK-47, and the average Nigerian will not go to ask questions on a man, with an AK-47 to prognose, to want to find out whether he's real or not real. It is the duty of the state. It is the duty of the Nigerian police, really, to find out if there are impersonators. I have seen a video that is going viral of some certain fake policemen in Kogi State that were busted. They were arrested by the Nigerian army, and they found out that they were fake policemen, but they were kitted with the camouflage of the Nigerian police. They were also armed with various assault rifles, including AK-47. So it is not the duty of a civilian or an election observer, to go and sort out that. It's not the duty. It is the state. It's the duty of the state via the law enforcement agents to fish out infiltration, as it were, in their system and their cadre.
Matter of factly, several candidates from different states, Imo, Kogi, and of course Bayelsa, they said that the security agents, the police precisely, have been professional and they've been impressed so far. Is that to say that you see it differently?
No, the police has performed, professionally well. They performed creditably well, and the Nigerian police. This is one of the best outings of the Nigerian police, the Nigerian army, DSS, excellent performance. But I did mention, our observation in a place called the Nembe areas of Bayelsa State, the Brass areas of Bayelsa State, where a few incidences of people preventing others from having access. And this was, supported, this was aided by persons who were dressed in police uniform and were armed with rifles. So that does not go, however, to say that the police did not perform optimally or professionally well. No, the police in Bayelsa State were professional, excellent performance. In fact, for me, I would recommend that elections in Nigeria should continually be replicated like what was seen in Bayelsa State. But I just mentioned pockets of areas where infiltration, so to speak, or bad conduct, as it were, played out.
Dr. Wambu Gabriel, I'll appeal to you to just hang on a bit while I take one or two thoughts from my guest in the studio, Jide Johnson, who has been in the studio, taking his time to explain one or two things based on what he has seen so far. But then we could hear from Dr. Wambu, he had been on the field in Bayelsa, giving us all of these exposés, this first-hand information. What do you make of his submissions so far?
Yeah, we see that what he said with respect to what we have gotten from correspondence report earlier in the day with the challenges they had in Nembe, in southern Niger, and those local governments, he corroborated what report we have gotten, and that's the beauty of having these various groups that are monitoring the election across the length and breadth of this country. It's a good service they are doing. They are doing for the country and the sacrifices they are making. And I also love what he said with the compilation. One of the challenges is that there are no consequences for bad behavior in Nigeria. We always reward bad behavior, in the sense that those that were arrested in February and those that were arrested in March for electoral malfeasance, what has happened to them? Those that were caught with vote buying and the rest of it, what has happened? What has happened to them until we begin to take specific action? I was saying earlier, now where you interjected and you draw my attention to the fact that even we have made use of professors to superintend over the electoral process, whereby some professors have even failed in terms of collation of electoral results. And I said that, look, there's a need for us, beyond INEC recruiting these ad hoc staff, just all commerce affairs. In most cases, I can tell you for a fact, because I'm a grassroots person, I can tell you for a fact that it is the party that controls the structure across the states that nominates most of these ad hoc staff, the presiding, the POs, the APOs, and the rest of it that you have at that level. And if you have a partisan hack as a returning officer at the polling, or as a presiding officer at the polling unit, what do you expect of such person to do? It will disappear. It will disappear and appear with pre-recorded results. So these are areas that we need to. If INEC could recruit, professors at the collation center at that level, what are the category of people? What level of education? What status do they occupy in the society? Because the actual election takes place at the polling unit. That's where the election takes place. Every other thing is tabulation. Once you leave the polling unit, after counting of the vote, once you get to the ward, it's tabulation. Once you get to the local government, it's tabulation. Once you get to the state, it's tabulation and announcement of the result. There's nothing you can do in terms of casting ballot and whatever. And in democracy, the actual power comes from the ballot. Is the result that is being declared, is it from the ballot or from collation?
But that was almost subverted earlier in the day when alleged results, results which were already pre-filled, if that sailed through, we know what could have happened. That probably would be negating your premise.
Now, that's the reason why you have beavers for accreditation, to have a back end. It's like you can't have a student that did not sit for an exam. How would he have results? Are you getting my point? A student that did not sit for an exam, how would you have a result? That's why Nigeria invested a lot of money on beavers, that it will be the back end. Any result that does not correspond with beavers will not be accepted. Beavers is used for accreditation. Now, there's no, you see that your image or your thumbprint.
That's right.
There's no way you can configure it in such a way that if I don't have my thumbprint or if I don't have my image. So these are the areas in which the National Assembly needs to look into. A situation whereby whatever is recorded in terms of accreditation on the beavers should actually be the total number. If it does not correspond, it should be rejected outrightly.
Right. Mr. Jide, let me quickly go to our guest who has been on Zoom, Dr. Wambo Gabriel from Bayelsa, Bayelsa. Thank you so much for keeping faith with us. Before we allow you to go very quickly, I can check the IREV portal. It's 85.38% uploaded so far. Tell us what your impression as regards this is in comparison to previous experiences. Would you say INEC has been able to fulfill its promise in terms of being able to upload these results sheets on the RF portal?
Yeah, thank you so much. It is evident and very clear that even at about 4 p.m. This evening, over 51% uploading had taken place. That is how elections should be. And that is how you conduct elections, so that we have less litigation, as post-election related conflicts. Oftentimes we spend so much resources, a country that is going cap in hand in the street we spend so much taxpayers' money to go to court, from the tribunal to the appeal court, and in some instances, if it is the presidential or governorship elections, it moves as far as to the Supreme Court. So I think if the process is really transparent, if the process is credible, if it is very clear that a particular candidate lost an election, he might not see the need to bother the judiciary that has been overloaded with a lot of litigation bordering on election and electoral processes. So to this effect, I think we should give INEC thumbs up. INEC has performed creditably well in this election, off-cycle election. Although in most off-cycle elections, INEC usually performs better than the general election. That's my own perspective.
So in order to assess it properly, one would need to wait for the next general election. That's the point you're trying to make. Is that correct?
Yes, of course. So that we do a comparative analysis in terms of the next general elections and probably the off-season elections from now, where we will have the Edo State, we now have Anambra, then we'll go back to Ondo and Ondo State and Ekiti State, respectively.
Interesting. I'm interested in what exactly is going on the ground where you are, the Collation Center. The voting process, according to our correspondent earlier in the day, said that it took about 4 minutes to be accredited and also to be accredited and also vote. But then the Collation Center, with the latest information we got from the RF portal in Bayelsa where you are, what would you recommend in terms of making collation faster, just as we've cast our ballots, in a very fast process?
Yeah, for now, you see, the idea for this of this INEC IREF, is actually for it to act as a check, to act as an alternative check. When results are posted in the INEC IREF, you are now compared with the manual collation that is just going on, behind me here, so that you now see whether it tallies. On a situation where there are variations, then that particular result is subject to questioning. But I am looking forward to a particular time when Nigeria will migrate via our National Assembly, making some laws, enacting some laws that will give legitimate backing to electronic uploading of results, and like the IREF, and that any result that does not tally with that electronic, is rendered null and void. So I think we should be a work in progress. But for now, it is not yet Uhuru, but I believe it is work in progress. We'll get there someday.
All right. I would like to also join you in congratulating the INEC official who was said to have been freed from our abductors there in Bayelsa. Dr. Wambo Gabriel is the Director General Center for Credible Leadership and Citizens Awareness, who has been speaking to us via Zoom from Yenagoa in Bayelsa. Thank you so much for your time and your keenness of insight.
Thanks for having me. Good evening.
Thank you, too. Jide Johnson, quite interesting thing. I was trying to see whether, based on the fact that election process, you said election is done, everything is done right there from the polling unit. Yeah. Why is it difficult for us to have these elections collected? You were trying to, say something like that, collated almost instantaneously.
Yeah, that's why I love where Dr. Wambu ended, talking about giving legitimacy to the IREF, because sometimes it's the uploaded result. Is it the same thing with the collated results that you have? What was the essence of us bringing a beaver's machine and uploading of those results, taking photograph of those images, is for the result of the polling unit not to change from the polling unit to the Ward Collation Center, and that of the Ward Collation Center to change from the local government. And sometimes we have elections in which it takes 2 days for the result of the local government to get to the state collation center. And sometimes the closest local government to where you have the collation centers, sometimes it takes 2 days for the result of those local government to get to. And that's why you're talking about the beauty of technology. That's why you're talking about giving legitimacy to electronic transmission of results. Because if we have electronic, look, just this Tuesday, there were elections in Mississippi, in Iowa, in Kentucky, gubernatorial elections in both Mississippi and Kentucky. And then the results, I monitored the election on CNN. The results, by the time the poll closed, the results started trickling in, and before some few hours, the calls were made to who actually won the election and who actually lost that particular election. And after the result were announced, everybody went home, and those that lost the election took their feet, and those that won the election continued to savour in the victory. So we need that, because the actual election, I've said it, look, the benefit the state resident electoral commissioner enjoy and the national chairman of INEC enjoys when we have a national election is that they collate the result in the most secured facility. The kind of security we provide for the National Collation Center, the kind of security we provide for the State Collation Center, why can't we provide that type of security, quote unquote, for the polling unit, where in actual sense, that's where the power comes from? That's where, why can't we provide that? Do you think that if it's open, to that you don't have the police, you don't have the DSS, you don't have everything, do you think that the State Collation Center will be peaceful? It will be invaded by talk. We've seen situations whereby attempts have been made in the past to invade even State Collation Center, even National Collation Center. Remember in 2015, we had the Orubebe incident. So it is important for us to have that conversation. How do we secure our election?
But is it possible?
And that takes it beyond INEC, like Dr. Wambu said. Right. What is the role of the security agencies in securing the critical infrastructure of democracy? The critical infrastructure of democracy is the ballot. Is the ballot. Once I cast my ballot, is the ballot cast, does it equate to the votes counted? Because the moment every one of us goes out on the day of the election to thumbprint and vote simultaneously without anybody knowing, as soon as we are finishing voting, the result is already declared. The winner has already emerged without any form of manipulation. It is when results start trickling in, that's when you begin to see the various types of, and we want to eliminate all of that so that whoever wins the election.
I'm wondering how this will come to fruition, where we have each polling unit being well policed, so that there won't be any breach, there won't be any. But we don't have enough security agents to go around. The soldiers are, they are brought into the election process just to ensure that they protect the ballot as well. But then we don't have as much manpower as you would have loved to.
I tend to disagree. I tend to disagree with that. Now, if INEC, except you want to play to the gallery, you have data. Data enables you to plan. Interpretation of data enables you to plan. Number is so important that God named a particular book the book of numbers, but we live in a society where people don't love data. Now, flashpoints. INEC know the flashpoints of where you have challenges concerning the elections. The security agencies know the flashpoint where we have challenges concerning the elections. Why do you have the intelligence community? How do the security agencies gather their intelligence? Look, in every local government, there is a DSS attached to every local government. In every local government, you have a DPO, an area commander. In every local government, you have immigration officers. All of these paramilitary and security agencies, they vote money for election. All you just need to do is to go and look into their budget. And prior to the election, you see them releasing statements, granting press conferences, releasing press releases concerning, giving assurances that we are going to secure that election. And on the day of the election, you begin to look out for this security.
But you can't entirely lay these blames on INEC because they tell.
That's what I'm saying, that the security agencies. That's what I'm saying.
I'm trying to make a point.
Okay.
I'm trying to make it because this election, they said they've done their own work and they are working with the assurances of the security agents. That's what they said.
That's
so it means they know what flashpoints, they know what oddbed, they know what is what, but then they can't do anything. They can of their own do nothing except that which was granted to them or which was assured them by the security agents.
And that's why we are saying that security architecture needs to be looked into. How do we secure our election? That's the challenges we're having now. We've dealt with the issue of people trying to snatch ballot boxes. That has been dealt with the introduction of the beavers and what have you. If you snatch the ballot boxes or you take away the ballot papers, you turn pretty, there's no way you are going to drop it inside the ballot boxes for that election. We've gone past that stage. The stage we're having challenges now is the issue of securing the election, preventing people from voting, ensuring that there are no voter suppression. Because if I know that that's your strength, your local government is your strength, is your stronghold, and I'll turn your stronghold to a battleground because I'll try to suppress the vote coming out from your stronghold in order for me to have better results from my own stronghold. So I'll secure my own stronghold, and then I'll turn your own stronghold to battleground. That's the area. That's the conversation we need to have moving forward. And the National Assembly has a critical role to play. How do we secure our election to ensure that we always talk about low voters turnout? Why would people want to go out to vote when they know that at the end of the day, I might go out to vote, I might not return back home safely. I might go out to vote, I might not return back home the way I went out to vote. When you see elections in bigger democracy like India, it's like carnival. They have their elections, 600 million people, and before you know it, you see the result of the election. And if we have started this Fourth Republic in 1999, and we're having elections, as far as I'm concerned, even this off-cycle election, we should have had this election in April with other elections. We could have fast-forwarded and have these particular elections in 2023 and have the election together, and we wait for the swearing-in of these governors of Imo, Bayelsa, and
okay.
Kogi.
So are you also supporting former President Goodluck Jonathan's proposition that off-cycle elections should be done away with? We should have all of these elections simultaneously, but I'm wondering how that is going to happen. How do we unify this election process?
For that of Kogi, what stops us from having this election 9 months before swearing in? I'm just saying, we could have had the election of Bayelsa, Kogi, and Imo in March, and then we swear in whoever when we want to swear in, so that we reduce the cost for that. Reduce the cost of you know how much money was voted for this particular election. If you look, I've said it. That's my opinion. I might be wrong. That sometimes, if you look at the investment we have made for this democratic governance, are we getting the deliverables from it? Probably we should just share the money for the election and let everybody be the local government chairman of his local government. Because if you share the resources that we have invested in election from 1999 to date in Nigeria, I'm not too sure. It will run into trillions and trillions and trillions of naira. And when you look at the amount of money that is invested in voters registration and then printing of ballot papers for the election, and then you correspond that with the voters turnout, are you making, if it's your personal business, you know that, are you making profit or you are running at a loss? From my own point of view, if you look at it from political business point of view, we are running at a loss, because if you print 60 million, okay, if you print 84 million ballot papers and only 24 million people are able to vote, what happens to
the
unused ballot paper? And then if you look at this off-cycle election too, if you look at the number, at the end of the day, we are going to see the voters turn out by the time they announce the result. And then who is going to pay? Who is going to pay? It's you and I that are paying for it. And if you are paying for it, because it is easier to rig election where few people come out to vote. But when majority of the people come out to vote in the election and people surely believe in the system, just like we had in June 12th election. A lot of Nigerians came out to vote, and it was very, very difficult for the establishment, the military-industrial complex, to truncate the process, despite the fact that they put the election on in June, thinking that rain will disrupt the process, and on that day did not rain, and Nigerians went out and voted for who they ever wanted, and then, you know what truncated that? It was because the announcement of the result was staggered. The challenges we have had with the result is the announcement of the result of the election. Now, you have, like Dr. Wambu said, you have pre-election matters, you have election matters, and post-election matters. The challenges we are having now, it has to do with post-election. After you have cast your ballot and the results have been announced in the polling unit, is the result announced in the polling unit, does it equate to the results that are collated in the collation center and the results that are announced by the returning officer? And whatever is announced by the returning officer becomes the result. You can only go and challenge that in the law court. Nobody.
And that's where we're going next. Post-election matters. There's been this recommendation, or several recommendations. One of it, which is post-election matters, with court cases and all of that, should be done with before the winner is sworn in. Is that where you also stand? Yeah,
I stand perfectly. It's good for the polity because, look, you and I are contesting election. I'm challenging your election. We are both candidates for the election. You are declared the winner. And then after you have been declared the winner, you have been sworn into the office. You have access to state resources. And I'm taking you to court. All the state institutions are within. You have an advantage. You have a head start ahead of me. There's no doubt about that. One, if I'm running the election, if I'm the litigation, whether you like it or not, you are collecting salary at the end of the month as elected into that particular office. You are getting one form of patronage or the other, and people that are looking for contracts will support you. Why me? I'll be looking for. And I'm in total support of that. We need to reform that process. It's also, apart from that, even if you don't look at that from that economic point of view, it's a major distraction. There's no way you have a case in court that will not be distracted. It's a major distraction. Look, in Nigeria, we spend close to a year for litigation, post-election litigation. The second year, whoever is declared as the winner used to work. By the third year, election campaign has started. And that's why we have suffered in terms of development, because we waste a lot of time in court, and by the time the government is settling down, the next electoral cycle is around the corner. So first year, you use it to go to court, face litigation and the rest of it. Second year, you are trying to settle down, to face the governors, to fulfill your promises. By the time you get to third year, electionary campaign have started again. So I'm in total support of that we need to have that reform, and then we speed up the process. Look at the way the Supreme Court, well, I thought that the Supreme Court could quickly dispense with the presidential election petition. Look at the way it was dispensed with. There were hues, there were cries. As the moment the Supreme Court dispensed on that particular matter, everything, the dust surrounding that election, the cloak, everything died down. It died a natural death, and everybody's looking forward to 2027 election. And that's the kind of approach we deal with that particular issue with a dispatch. Any post-election matters should be dealt with before swearing in.
Okay, so we are saying that there shouldn't be distraction for one who had been sworn in.
Exactly.
And then is that to say that the one who is holding the position currently, I mean, at that time, just to say, before the new winner is sworn in, would have to tarry for a longer time, and if the person who had been in office is still the person who is seeking re-election, who will stay there? Would that be an interim government, just like
why do we need
proposed?
90 days to dispense electoral matters, when in actual sense you vote in one day and the result is announced in the second day? Why do we need?
There will need for you to provide evidences, just like we saw with the other party that brought several avalanche of evidences to
now
court.
One of the things we can do concerning that is to seal the result of the election, to seal it. It's a public property. Now, for example, all the ballot papers that were used for the election in Kogi State, in Bayelsa State, in Kogi State, probably you take them, you seal them together. the custody of those materials is taken away from INEC, probably deposited with central bank or deposited with...
You mean the election results?
The ballot paper.
The ballot paper.
Let me see. For example, if you have...
But they've always been with the Central Bank of Nigeria before they...
so that if you have any issue, for example, I have an issue with polling unit, so. Okay, this is the batch, it's sealed. We unsealed it. We count the ballot paper. How many days do you think it will take us to count 29 million ballot papers? How many days? It is technicalities that create problem during litigation. It's technicalities. Once you have the result of the election, tamper-proof, you can dispense with electoral matter within 2 weeks. Within 2 weeks. If it takes how many days to count the result? So if you are contesting the election and INEC conducted that election and they declared the result, you should have the materials you use to declare the result, polling unit by polling unit, word by word.
It's easier to count on election day, just like we've seen today, because there are more manpower, there are more hands to do that, different polling units, but it's not going to be the same post-election. You know
that they have recount in United States of America election. Recount. Look, the ballot paper is public property. Why do you think that what you get on the day of the election is called mandate? Mandate. It's a combination of two words, man and date. Man in the sense that generic for all gender. Man is a mandate with destiny. Why do we use our thumbprint? What can never be forged in life? Your signature can be forged. What can never be forged is your thumbprint. Why is it that it's thumbprint we use to vote on the election? On that day, there is a social contract. The most critical infrastructure in election is the ballot paper.
I'm not sure whether you've heard of, because I was speaking with my earlier guest several hours ago. He said that some people were also using cashew nuts to thumbprint.
Yeah, that's why we should secure it. That's why you can have forensic analysis of whether it's cashew nut or not. What's the essence of me going out to vote on the day of the election and I'm using my own thumbprint? I'm saying that for the next 4 years, I'm surrendering my rights to determine the kind of taxes I'm going to pay, the kind of rates I'm going to pay, so that you take all those decisions on my behalf, you make my life better, and I'm giving you the right to take those decisions on my behalf. That's why it's called mandate. So on that day, I thumbprint, and someone is using cashew nut, and me, I'm going to use my thumbprint. That's why we must secure. Every attempt must be made to secure that ballot paper. You see, until we get to the point that every ballot that is cast on that election, we can make a demand for it and have a forensic analysis of those ballots. We are still playing. We are not ready for democracy. Because that ultimate power comes from the ballot. And that ballot is issued by INEC. And after the election, you are not meant to destroy it. They put all the ballot in an envelope and it is sealed. So you can only unseal that envelope through a court order. And that's the process we should go through. We can only seal it. It should be secured. And then when there is contention concerning the result, call for those sealed ballots. Each of the polling unit has its own ballot paper with its own serial number. And then what will it take us to, let me say 60 million Nigerians voted in an election. And we said, okay, gather the 60 million ballot papers, recruit people to go and count it so that we determine the actual winner of the election. Take all the chains of custody. Take away all the chains of custody of those materials and give it to either the tribunal or the Supreme Court for them to hire a body to count the ballot and declare the winner. I can tell you, if we do that, you will reduce rigging to the PRS.
But those who will do this will not be Nigerians. I'm not saying Nigerians are not.
You see, Nigerians are fantastic.
Integrity.
Look, we are fantastic people.
No, so as to eliminate any sense of bias.
No, you see, look, there's no way you...
Or allegation of being biased.
There's no way you take away bias when human being is involved. I give you an example. You can only reduce rigging to the barest minimum. I used to say this jokingly with my student. There was an election in the family of Isaac, between Isaac and Jacob. The mom was the electoral officer. The father was to hand over power. The mother gave intelligence to win election you require intelligence. The mother gave intelligence to Jacob ahead of Esau. And that's how Jacob got the birthright. As long as you have human being, there will be some elements of human. But you want to reduce it to the barest, minimum. We don't want brazen impunity. Whoever wins the election, for example, like Dr. Mabu said, if you check the off-cycle election, there was no contention concerning Ekiti's election last week, Oshun's election.
This very last Oshun election?
This very last.
Contention in terms of?
In terms of the result of the election, the result that was declared for the election. For example,
have you forgotten that they went to court?
They went to court, but you saw that the way the court ruled concerning the matter, concerning even Ekiti, and those that lost in the court, did they accuse the court of being biased? They accepted their fate. So it's very, very important for us to secure. And when we talk about security, we focus too much on INEC. There is now the time for us to focus on the security architecture concerning our election. Any attempt to truncate the ballot is a coup. It's a coup. Any attempt to truncate the balloting system. Because on the day of the election, I've been accredited. You are given a ballot, I'm giving a ballot. It is that ballot that will determine who gets the reign of power. And if someone tries to truncate that process, right, that person is truncating democracy. That person is planning a coup. And that person does not deserve to live. And we must do everything to secure. And that's the conversation we must have moving to 2027. How do we secure our elections? We have seen that attempts have been made by the political class to manipulate the process. The voting, the accreditation have been dealt with beavers. Uploading of results have been dealt with beavers. Now is the issue of securing the election so that people can actually go out and vote. We don't have voters suppression. We don't have voters intimidation. We don't have thuggery and the rest of it.
I like your optimism and your recommendations, regarding expediting our electoral process so that we'll present a winner at the end of the day so that everyone will go back to their home and look forward to, quality governance. But then there is a setback in Kogi State where the Independent National Electoral Commission has suspended, about 9 local governments due to the pre-filling of, alleged pre-filling of result sheets, which they are currently investigating according to the electoral body.
That's not a setback. It's one of the gates.
What would you call it? No, because you want it to be expedited. You want results be seen, and then we have a winner. But now it's going to delay. Isn't that part of the implications, which I'm trying to ask you?
That type of delay is not denial. It's about making the process better. To a large extent, sometimes you need a setback in order for you to launch forward. That kind of setback, I would readily accept. That's that kind of setback. It means that the system is benefiting. There's what is called a system theory. Every system benefits from a negative feedback in order for you to have a feed forward. Now, there are lessons that will be learned, for example, concerning those local governments, particularly in Kogi Central, right, where you have the gladiator in being involved in that particular election. So, as far as I'm concerned, INEC has taken a decisive step in addressing that particular issue, not allowing it to slide. In the past, we'll have seen the result of, when you talk about 2003, or you talk about 2007, or you talk about 2011, such result, we just see that the result will just appear from nowhere, and the result will be declared, and then the winner will be declared, and there's nothing anybody can do. And like the common thing is that go to court. When you go to court, because the result has been declared by INEC, and that will be automatically be the result. So I love that kind of setback. It's about us trying to have a perfect system. What are the lessons that we learned in February? What are the lessons that we learned in March? What are the lessons we are learning in this off-cycle election in November? This should inform. And what are the lessons we learned from the various interpretations of the judiciary concerning the enabling law that governs our election, so that it can become a feed forward for what we do moving forward in 2027, so as to secure the election, so as to deal with. You see, It's only a fool that does not learn from a mistake. Tell me someone that has succeeded before that has never made a mistake. Even, I'm sorry, you may not agree with me, but I'm a Christian by faith, and I'll share that. Even God learned from his own mistakes too. God even made mistakes. In the beginning, Almighty God created the heaven and the earth. It was void. It was shapeless. If God does not want us to learn from it, he won't talk about it being void, being shapeless, and not having any kind of form. So the best bet is for us. What are the mistakes that we have made? We learn from it, and we move forward, and we correct it going to 2027 so that we can begin to move towards near perfection of election. So that by 7 p.m. in 2027, we want to know who actually won the presidential election. By 7, 8, 9 p.m., we should know who actually won the election, so that the election is conducted in daylight and the result is announced in daylight, not in the early hours of the morning. We want to know who won the National Assembly election before 7 p.m. So it begins to build people's confidence. It will increase voters' turnout because I believe that my votes count, and every step is taken to secure my vote.
Even though other theologians will definitely, disagree with you.
Yeah, they can't disagree with me.
Whether God make mistakes or
yeah,
not. But we leave that for theological debates anyway.
We can have that debate, but that's why I said my personal belief. I might be wrong.
That's right. So all the same, it means that you also agree to the fact that, from the year where we started having democratic election processes, we've really improved over the years.
We've improved tremendously. There's no doubt about that. You remember those days of incident form whereby there will be no election, and then they will say they'll collect the incident form and results will be written and elections will be declared. We've moved from
results were also written.
Yeah, exactly.
Where we have more voters than accredited voters.
Whereby we see the courts declaring governors has been elected, where a third of the local government in a state is cancelled, and then the elections are declared based on 2/3 of the elections happening in the local government. We've gone past those stages. We have gone to the stage whereby you have beavers, which is used for accreditation, and at the same time, which is also used to upload the results. So we deployed it. We give legitimacy by giving it an enabling law that electronic transmission of results is what we use for that particular election.
So also, this also speaks to the fact that, moving forward, you would like to see Nigeria participating in remote voting or diaspora voting.
Yeah, you see, for example, during the election, you and I won't have opportunity of voting. I've also spoken about this. And there is a need for us to have absentee ballots because, for example, the security agencies don't vote. They don't vote. Journalists don't vote. People that are engaged in critical sector, service sector, don't vote during the election. So they are disenfranchised. Don't forget, they also have their voters' card. So when we remove the percentage of those categories of people, journalists, people that are monitoring election, and security agencies and the rest of it, when you are talking about close to about 30% of the voting population not participate, and we are all complaining at the same time that there's low voters turnout. How do we harness that? We can only harness that through absentee ballots. If as a military man I've voted, if as a policeman I've voted ahead of time, and I'm posted to a polling unit, and I'm so much emotionally attached to my vote, I will not allow anybody, because we have not made some people critical stakeholders. They don't have any stake. I didn't vote, so if you like, it's you people that are voting. You have had it's you people that are voting. Why would I vote? Me, in my local palace, me and no cuckoo vote. But if they voted in the election, they'll be emotionally attached. They become stakeholders, and they'll take every step to prevent that election. So we should consider absentee ballots so that people that will be engaged on the day of the election can vote ahead of time.
All right, so we'll talk about those who feel unconcerned about the electoral ballots. But then let's quickly take these updates coming in. You're watching TVC News. We've been talking about, analyzing the elections in Imo, Bayelsa, and Kogi. And this result is, this story is about the massive turnout in Kogi Central on Saturday as residents trooped out in their numbers to cast their votes in the much-anticipated off-cycle governorship election in the state. Ibira indigents in particular had, as early as Wednesday, begun to arrive in droves in Okene and other local government areas of the state to ensure that what they described as a total delivery of votes for the governorship candidate of the All Progressives Congress, Usman Ododo, who is the only candidate from Kogi Central in the race. Some of those who were interviewed at some polling units with mammoth crowd revealed how sons and daughters of the area had mobilized money among themselves to hire luxurious buses for people to return home to vote. Speaking on the massive turnout in Kogi Central, an independent observer, Yakubu Jimo, said he noticed that the people loved the outgoing governor and were ready to, on their own, prove this point with the votes. He said it was like zonal rallies in many polling units, where people were waiting as early as 7:30 a.m. to cast their votes. Meanwhile, the state governor, Yahaya Bello, commended the process and conduct of the election by the Independent National Electoral Commission.
We are all enthusiastic about this civic responsibility. We have all come out in our numbers to cast our vote. It is timely. All materials were deployed within the time stipulated. And so far, I have not received any complaint from any quarter. The conduct of INEC so far has been so fantastic. All the security agencies have conducted themselves so far very professionally. There's no hitches, no rancor. We're united, and we are happy over this exercise. And by the special grace of God, we are going to come off very triumphant in this particular exercise. Go into history, go into record, and compare my own regime and that of the previous ones. You will discover that the regime of Governor Yahaya Bello, conduct of elections, have been the most freest, the most free, fair, and credible, and violent-free elections. So the issue of violence in our election in Kogi State is a media creation, is a figment of imagination of all those who does not want good things happen here in Kogi State. But to the glory of God, you are seeing the atmosphere very tranquil, very, very peaceful, very, very in harmonious relationship. So there's nothing like violence. And the conduct of free and fair and credible election is in the hands of both INEC, security agencies, and the citizens. We, the citizens, have conducted ourselves very orderly and very, very cordially. The INEC are doing their job very, very well, and the security agencies are equally assisting. So far, so good. No any adverse report from anywhere. And I want to urge the media not to listen to just hearsay, not to listen to social media. Please wait till INEC come up with any official report or position as far as this exercise is concerned here in Kogi State. I want to assure all of you that I am bequeathing the stage better than I met it.
That's the incumbent governor of Kogi State, Yahaya Bello, who was speaking with the press earlier. And a little earlier, the Independent National Electoral Commission says collation of results in Bayelsa state governorship election will begin by 10 a.m. on Sunday. The returning officer, Professor Farouk Kota, made the announcement at the opening of the Collation Center in Yenagoa. He cited the arrival of election results from only one out of the 8 local government areas and the absence of key stakeholders such as political party agents as some of the reasons for this decision.
All the basic things that we are supposed to know at a collation center like this one, we will spell them out. And so we would like to ask that the party agents should be aware, and then they should report to this place at 10 o'clock tomorrow. Because without them and the security agents, of course, we cannot make progress. party agents are very important in this matter. We are not saying that they are the overall deciders, because we are saying that because they are stakeholders, they also need to be there so that we can make meaningful progress. And so on this point, I don't want to bore you with too much thoughts. I want to plead that we adjourn till 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, God still alive, so that we all reconvene here, and then we'll now begin to take our results as they come in.
There you have it. We're bringing you some updates as soon as they continue to emerge. I've been speaking with my guest in the studio, Jide Johnson, who is a chief lecturer at the NIJ, that's Nigeria Institute of Journalism. Thank you so much for your analysis so far, your time, your tenacity, your passion for the growth of this country. But then I would like us to, start this in the face of this conversation from what the incumbent governor, excuse me, of Kogi State, Yahaya Bello, said that there was no rancor. Everywhere was peaceful. In fact, people came home from far and near to cast their ballots to show their solidarity for his government, his continuation, etc. But then, do you see anything? Did you find anything intriguing?
Well, if you understand the dynamics of Kogi State politics, I served in Kogi State, and Kogi State rests on three tripods. Kogi West is made up of the Yoruba-speaking, which we call the Yagba people, which has 7 local governments. 5 of it are actually from the Yagba people, while 2 of it, Lokoja and this other I can't recall, from other minority, Basa, from other minority groups, while Kogi Central is made up of the Gira people, which has 5 local governments, and then you go to Kogi East, which has 9 local governments, which is made up of the dominant Igala tribe in Kogi State. And then if you understand the dynamic concerning the picking of candidates, you discover that the 3 gladiators, for example, in this particular election, 3 major candidates spread across these 3 tripods that you have in Kogi State. Ododo from Central, Melaye from West, and I can't recall this SDP. Ajaka from SDP. So there's no doubt that as far as the dynamics of that politics is concerned, there are those that felt that the Galas have always ruled the state until the emergence of Yahaya Bello by force majeure, by force majeure, and then attempt for him. So we all knew that that election is going to take the dimension which is taken, in the sense that it's, well, in most cases, actually, politics is tribal and it's cultural, whether Nigeria or global. That's why if you go to the United States of America, you see that African Americans always vote for Democrats. Democrats control the cosmopolitan areas, cosmopolitan cities, and then the coastal area. When you talk about California and New York, while the Republicans, they have their base in the rural, in the rural area. So it's the same thing with what we have in Nigeria. And you could see the mammoth crowd that surrounded the governor when he actually went to cast their vote. But I know one interesting dimension I love about that is that during the election, it's easier for people to move closer to these governors and the rest of it. Yeah. But during governance, you see the security agencies pushing these people away, and that's why actually we are anxiously waiting for what will be the outcome of that particular election. What the governor said with respect to the report we got was what happened at that particular point in time, where he is, but various intelligence after and by INEC statement runs contrary to what he said with respect to cancellation of result in 9 out of 10 wards in Ogorimagogo local government, and then in some areas in Adavi, Okeyi, and some Okene local government. So, but we wait and see. INEC has quickly intervene. And like he pointed out that, well, he's a man of peace. We want peaceful election. That's what everybody wants. And nobody wants a violent election, because if you foment violence concerning the election, what are you going to superintend over? What are you going to govern? What are you going to administer? And the political class must realize this. Politics is not a do or die affair.
Well, have we come to realize that?
You see,
because the way people take elections, it's always like a do or die affair. It is one thing, I want my own candidate to win, my candidate or no one.
Because it has taken a lot of cultural, I don't want to use tribal now. It has taken a lot of cultural undertone. A lot of cultural undertone in the sense that, well, this particular culture have dominated our culture, is the turn of our culture to have access to power. And I've asked this question, that the fact that the governor is from your hand does not mean that
you're going to enjoy him.
You are going to enjoy the deliverables of democracy better than those that are not even from your region. So the important thing for an average Nigerian is to understand that which particular candidate has the best program. For me, it doesn't really matter whether it's from my tribe, whether it's from my religion, or we share the same faith.
Unfortunately, how much of deep perusal do we do for some of their manifestos? We see how difficult it is for some candidates to even publish their manifestos. You don't even have access to them. It's only what they come out to say during election, during campaign. We will do this, we'll do that. We even saw one of the, one of the candidates that was saying, I will do this, I will do this. And people were asking questions. You say you will, but you've been the governor for some days. I mean, for some years. But you're still campaigning like someone who is just coming into power.
You see, it's the flip side of democracy. It's just the flip side. It's the flip side of democracy. You know what Franklin Delano Roosevelt said? He said, politicians are those that promise to build bridges where there are no river. You can only have flyover there, but they will tell you they'll build bridges. So it's the flip side. It's the flip side of democracy. Democracy is about making promises to the people that these are the things we are going to do. And at the end of 4 years, you come back and give them excuses why you are not able to do what you promised earlier. And then you make other promises telling them that you have learned your lesson, you do something better than what you have done in the last 4 years. The challenge is that we don't have, like you pointed out, we don't have issue-based campaign. There are no issue-based campaign with respect to what you campaign the candidate on at the end of 4 years. For example, all the people paraded themselves to be governor in Bayelsa State, in Imo State, in Kogi State. What are the, can we count the cardinal principles that of what they intend to do, how, and that's why we have said that we should go back to true federalism. When you go back to true federalism, where there's no federal allocation coming, because most governors can't think outside of the box. If you have to make the money in order for you to pay the salary of your workers, you don't have to wait for federal allocation at the end of the month, for Jack at the end of the month. If you have to generate revenue internally in order for you to sustain your state, I'm sure a lot of people will opt out not to be the governor of their respective state. And as you might think that they are getting away with it now, but you must understand one fact: the younger generation are becoming more sophisticated. They are becoming more sophisticated. They begin to ask questions and they begin to make demands with respect to what you are going to deliver for them. If you and I have kids, the way our kids question us, is that the way we interrogate our parents? The way this present generation, the way they... So there will be a lot of interrogation, and if you check the demography of the people that are actually voting now, they are on the older generation, a lot of women and the rest of it. But once the demography is changing, then question will be asked with respect to what are you going to do for us with respect to your promises, and what are you going to deliver if we elect you into office?
Unfortunately, people still focus their attention on the national election.
Yeah.
What happens on the national level? When it comes to budget presentation, you see everyone tearing the national budgets, into shreds. But if it comes to the happenings within their states, their local government. They don't even have an idea. They don't even know who their local government chairmen are. So when you say we are becoming aware of, we are coming to life about, our democracy, about governance in governance in the country, it does not appear that we know what is happening, at our own.
Well, that's why people have called for restructuring. Yeah, that's why we have called. For example,
is it a matter of restructuring?
It's a matter of restructuring because they say charity begins at home. You recall you spoke about option 8 where I talk about the level of leadership from the ward level to the local government level and what have you. I tell you for a fact, there's no local government structure in any state in Nigeria. That's for a fact. There's no local government structure.
They've been subsidized, under the state.
The 1999 Constitution did not make any provisions for the local government. It was subsumed under the State House of Assembly based on whatever pronouncement the State House of Assembly made concerning the local government. So we have in some states in Nigeria that the last time they conducted local government election was in December 8, 1998, which marked the beginning of transition to the Fourth Republic. After that, no local government election have been conducted. Now, and development does not start from the top, it starts from the base. So if the people are not engaged politically, they are not involved politically at the grassroots level to elect their councillors, to elect their local government chairman, how politically active are they going to be? So the focus will always be on national election because it's national election that happens every 4 years. Elections don't take place at the local government. I can tell you for a fact, there is no state in Nigeria. The elections that are conducted by the state electoral body, you just see that you conduct an election, there is 100%. The party controlling the state government will win all the councillorship election, will win all the local government. There's no even margin of error. And
when push comes to shove, you have selection of caretaker chairman.
Caretaker chairman, and we are complaining about, we have not deepened democracy. We are saying that people are not interested. Because, for example, what battered my political consciousness was, in 1983, West Africans that are North Nigerian indigenous that were teaching in Nigeria were asked to leave Nigeria. And our maths teacher was a Ghanaian. So he left. And then the chairman of our PT, Engineer Shabi of blessed memory, offered to take us mathematics because there was a shortage of maths teachers and the rest of it. There was a shortage of teachers then. So he offered to take us mathematics. And when the transition in 87 started, he contested as zero-party election, 1987, local government election in Lagos State. So he was a contestant for a councillor. Right. Those of us that he taught while we were in secondary school, we helped, because it was a zero-party, we helped to campaign for him. That battered our interest because it was somebody we can relate. Oh, this was chairman of our PT while we were in secondary school. He's contesting an election, zero-party election. We participated in somebody we can relate with. In most cases, I can tell you for a fact, majority of the people in the grassroots can't relate with their local government chairman. They can't relate with their councillors because they don't know them. They don't even reside in the community. Sometimes you see the chairman will be residing in another state and will be superintending over the local government. It does not live in. So some of the problems we have concerning this polity are self-inflicted wounds. And it's important for those of them that are looking at us, for us to have a rethink that if we don't put in a perfect system in place, this democracy we are having will collapse. It's just a matter of time. Democracy starts from the grassroots. But what have we done to grassroots governance? What have we done to the democratic structure at the grassroots level? We have replaced that with autocratic governance, in whereby the governor will appoint caretaker committee chairman to run. Can you imagine? At the federal level, you have a democratic elected government. At the National Assembly, you have a democratic elected government. At the state level, you have a democratic elected executive. You have a democratic elected legislature. Then you come to the local government. You have undemocratic elected representative. government that is closest to the people, and you want the people to imbibe the spirit of democracy. You can't give what you don't have.
Even though people, just like you're saying, just like you're talking about it, a lot of people talk about it, everyone talks about it, but how can we stop it without having to wait till when we are going to go back to that marginalization?
I'm looking for the president to take the bull by the horn, because the president was passionate about it. You recall, he was the president that started
local councils,
local development councils area, and he fought Obasanjo administration to a standstill. I think one of the executive bill that I'm looking forward to that the president will put before the National Assembly is the issue of democratization of the local government structure.
But then there was this local government autonomy, which the last administration tried.
Unfortunately, the states.
But the states.
The state that did not pass it.
Houses of Assembly.
The states that did not pass it. Unfortunately, the state that did not pass it. They are the most progressive state. They are the most progressive state that you think will pass it. They are the ones that didn't pass it. Lagos State, Ogun State, Ekiti State. They were the southwestern states. If you had gotten 3 southwestern states to have supported that local government autonomy, it would have become a part of
what do you think was responsible to their decisions? Because these states houses of assembly, were expected to know better in the essence of having local government autonomy, because that's the closest to the people, for crying out loud.
Because the local government in the state are more or less subsumed under the State House of Assembly. By 1999 Constitution, I don't know the exact provisions, but there's a specific provision in 1999 Constitution as amended that says that it is the local government, it is the State House of Assembly that will make legislation with respect to the nature, the form, and the structure of local government in the state. So it is more or less like you are taking away an empire. Before you appoint the caretaker committee chairman, you take the list to the State House of Assembly for them to ratify it. So it also gives the speaker and some major stakeholder in the State House of Assembly to also have their nominees as caretaker committee. And then if you know the amount of money that goes to the local government, someone told me that if you are a governor, if you are not careful, that there is no way you can escape EFCC if EFCC comes after you. Because by the time you see the local government allocation on a monthly basis, you'll be interested in dipping your hand in that particular cookie jar. And it is very, very instructive and it's very, very important for us to look at those areas. What are the areas of reforms that we need to, in order to deepen this democracy?
That's right.
We need to democratize the grassroots. We need to. It is very, very important for us to democratize the grassroots. If you check, one of the things that made Babangida's transition to democracy very, very powerful and very, very strong until June 12 was the democratization of the grassroots governance. It started with Zero Party in 1987. By 1990, there was local government election. And then I can recall, 1990, there was Decree 10. Decree 10 of 1990 brought about presidentialism into the local government structure. And then those were the golden era of local government administration. In Lagos State, I can say that because I'm passionate about local government. Those are the areas of Willie Akilude in Mushin. Those are the areas of Adeniji Adele in Lagos, Island. Those are the days of Odebumi, formerly of Ikeja, and later Alimosho local government. Alimosho was created. Those are the days of Ajaguno in Agege local government. Those particular period, local government chairmen were regarded as mayor across the length and breadth of this nation. So we need to bring about that democratization. It will reduce some of the pressure on the state government, and it will reduce some of the attention we have devoted to the... If everything is wrong, it's the president. If everything is wrong, it's the president. If everything is wrong, it's the National Assembly. Whereas devolution of powers and delegation of powers enable you to give some responsibility to some subunits of it. It's like, look, it's like the body system. If the head says he wants to do the function of the hand, what do you think will happen to the head? And that's And that's the challenge. Every of the powers in the country, we have taken it to the center, which is the head. We are not giving anything to the lower body, to the upper body, and we are not giving anything to the lower body. So these are the areas that we need to look into.
Quite glaring that we are actually not following the constitution in the country, because according to Section 7, subsection 1 of the 1999 Constitution as amended, it said the system of local government by democratically elected government councils is under this constitution guaranteed. Fast forward, the government of every state shall, subject to Section 8 of this constitution, ensure their existence under a law which provides for the establishment, structure, composition, finance, and functions of such councils. So the person authorized by the law to prescribe the area over the local government council may exercise authority shall define such area as clearly as practicable, ensure to the extent that to which it may be reasonable, justifiable, that in defining such area regards is to pay to the common interest of the community in the area, the tradition, etc., etc. So this is entrenched in the law. So why is it that we're flouting the law?
We see that power is subsumed under the State House of Assembly. This is what is called an omnibus section. There is tremendous power vested in the state, in the State House of Assembly. They shall talk about the form, the structure, and what have you. And that's why some of us have argued that you need to take away the election of local government from State Electoral Commission, put it under INEC. Let's have a unified local government structure. If it's 3 years, we want to have. If it's 4 years, we have 4 years local government structure, and then we conduct the election. It is conducted by INEC, and then even from that.
But then the same brush that was, that the CIEC are painted with is the same they are painting the INEC on a national scale. It's just that one is bigger than the other. I'm trying to make a point. They will say that he who pays the piper calls the tune. The governor of the state will dictate to the CIEC how the local government chairman will emerge. Ditto to the way they talk about INEC on the national body, saying that the one who is at the apogee of, the aim of affair is the one who will tell INEC, this is who I want.
The 36 states in Nigeria are not controlled by one party. The National Assembly is almost evenly spread across all the political parties. Can you imagine INEC conducting 774 local government elections, and then INEC will have interest in all of the 774? What we have is the truth and nothing but what we have at the local government level across the length is an anomaly. It's an anomaly. What we have. Look, there's no state that has 100% House of Assembly members from one party. But you have a situation whereby in many states, whereby all the councillors and all the local government chairmen are from one party. It's an anomaly. And it's important, you see, because our goal is to provide solution that will make this nation to thrive. Because once the local government is well structured, there's development at the local government level, it will rub on the state and it will rub on national. Look, the closest government to the people is the local government, not the state government. And that government has been taken away from the people. I can tell you for a fact, it's been taken away from the people. It has been taken over by critical stakeholders at the state. And then what they use the local government for is to compensate aspirants that lost either State House of Assembly election, National Assembly election, or to compensate for political leaders who want to compensate their followers, whether they are loyalists, or sometimes they use to compensate their girlfriends and but it's everybody that understand the dynamics of the policy. You understand the dimension with which local government structure have been subjected to in Nigeria. It is compensatory political appointment.
Well, you said so anyway.
Yeah, my opinion, and I stand by it.
But then, moving on to, what the incumbent governor of Kogi State said. He said that, yeah, fine, we've got some local governments, we've got some polling units in the certain local government that have been Magogo rather, that have been suspended. And he said that everyone should wait patiently for the results to be declared, that no one should, start, throwing around misinformation, fake news, fake result sheets all over the social media, but they should wait till for the INEC to, which is the authorized body, to announce this result. That's advice. That's a very good advice. Would you?
In 1993, there was a portal. There was a big billboard in INEC office in Abuja where the result of the states were being displayed. Technology has not evolved to the point of us having electronic display and the rest of it. Now, what makes it very, very difficult for you to manipulate or rig the process is as soon as we finish voting on the electronic tabulation of INEC, the result of all the polling units are there. Everybody knows who actually won the election. Everybody knows who actually lost the election. As far as the political parties are concerned, if you have ever been involved in politics, by now, the party that won the election actually knew they won. The party that lost the election actually knew they lost the election. You know why? And you know how? They already have the results sheet, their own copy.
The polling agents.
From their polling agents. So in their various situation room, they have the result of the election in their hand. And where the election is a close contest, that's where these various manipulation comes in. However, if you dispense with the result, like I said, look at the way the Supreme Court, you may agree or disagree with the Supreme Court process or judgment, but the way the matter was treated with a dispatch, less controversy surrounded it compared to the judgment of the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal. That the date for judgment was reserved for, and there was speculation that the judgment will be delivered, the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal will deliver judgment today, will deliver judgment, the deadline will soon expire, the deadline will soon expire, the deadline will not soon expire. But that of the Supreme Court, and it's that dispatch. Once you see, there's a particular say, he said, tick, say the clock, tick, tick. What you have to do too quick. And there's a saying in my local dialect, if you stay too long in the toilet, different kind of germs will meet you there. So the earlier you dispense with the result of the election, as far as I'm concerned, I don't see any reason. I might be wrong, but that's my opinion. Why you should postpone the collation of result? Because once the result, we will not leave until you bring the result. If it's 2 a.m., bring the result. We start collating the result which we have. One, you should have one that is collating one from your back end, from your IREF, right, and the one that you have manual, so that you can correspond the two.
So that collation which you said, it's been postponed to 10 a.m., but others will be saying, why don't we do it at night? Why don't we do it almost immediately that we are receiving the results? Why do we have to wait till the following morning? Because of the time between when we are supposed to start collating the result and the time that has been allotted or that has been announced by the INEC for a later time to reconvene for the collation of this result. Is anything wrong in doing that anytime they receive it, just the way we had it in February?
If you go by 2:30 p.m., 2:31 p.m., and you are not accredited, would they allow you to vote? You will not be allowed to vote because accreditation and voting, if you get there before 2:30, you'll be allowed to vote. Accreditation and voting is between 8:30 and 2:30, 8:30 a.m. and 2:30 p.m. There is a timing for voting. Why don't we have timing for collation? Collation shouldn't be forever. If you have timing for accreditation and voting, you should also have timing for declaration, for collation of results. For example,
regardless of suspension, no, regardless of suspension of certain polling units.
Where you have suspension of certain polling unit, you know you are going to have the election the following day in those polling units. But does that forestall you or stop you from announcing the result which you have? Is that local government you stop? Because we should have. I've said it. Look, if we finish election by 2:30 p.m. and it's taking us more than 24 hours to get the result of that particular election, something is wrong with the process. There is something that we need to put in place to quicken the process. Look, technology has made life easier. There's nowhere in any state that you want to travel that if you travel, it will take you more than 8 hours to get to the state capital. That will take you, any state, I want anybody to, in any state in Nigeria, that it will take you more than 8 hours for you to leave a particular location and get to the state capital. We have seen situations whereby results sometimes take 48 hours before it gets to the collation center. These are the processes that we need to look at. If you have timing for voting, for accreditation, you should have timing for the collation of results. It can't be for eternity. It can't be for eternity.
That's right. So, but in all of this, the security agents, you know, we talked about them earlier, and then we felt, based on what we had our guests from Bayelsa said earlier on, that, you know, they did well. They did well. The police also did well, barring the circumstance, the incident they reported in some local government where they disallowed some Nigerians, some electorate to be able to vote. So would you say that the police force have actually, you know, they try to deliver on the mandate, deliver on the promises, making Nigerians to be able to perform their franchise? If you compare that to the February and March election, is that a very good outcome for you?
Well, you know, from what he said, we saw where he spoke about some areas where there are flashpoints, where monitors, even voters, were not allowed, and the police played a critical role. I think what they should have done, like he said they have their compilation of those particular areas, the names and which they are going to forward. Beyond forwarding the names to the embassies, we should look at how to solve our problem internally. I don't. Even United States of America still have their own problems with even securing their own election. 2020 election is still being contested till date. As far as some Republicans are concerned, 2020 election was stolen, and as far as some Democrats were concerned, Trump was not a legitimate president elected in 2016. So I don't want us to solve our problem looking for external bodies. Who are those people? You have the Police Service Commission. You can petition them, get their names, get their identity, and then we look for internal means to solve those particular problems, so that those ones are identified and we make an example of. And then I want the police also to have the political will to prosecute. For example, you've seen some story flying on social media that even posted by EFCC themselves, that they intercepted a lot of cash, about close to about 11 million.
Yeah, that's actually where I'm going next, about vote buying.
11 million was intercepted for vote buying. The ones for March, what has happened to those that they intercepted? Who are those? Who are the characters behind this vote buying? Why don't you prosecute them? Even if you don't want to, let's identify them, let's shamify them. Let's use the concept of shame. Even if you don't want to prosecute them, identify them, splash their faces, let people see them, and then we take decisive action concerning that. Beyond, okay, we intercepted, we prevented vote buying. No. What we want is whoever breaks the law should face the consequences, regardless of a status or position in the society. There shouldn't be a two-tier justice system. The justice system is blind, and if you are found culpable, you should be punished for your culpability. However, what we see is that sometimes a lot of these agencies, in order to justify their budget, I've said it, go and check the budget of the police for this election. Go and check the budget of the army for this election. Go and check the budget of EFCC for this election. Go and check the budget of immigration for this election. All of these bodies, go and check the budget of NDDC, the Civil Service, the Civil Defense Corps. Now go and check their budget for this election. You will be shocked at the amount of money they budgeted for this election. Does the money budgeted, does it commensurate with the services we are getting or we've gotten in return? These are areas we need to really look at, which takes us to the issue of security, which we talk about. How do we secure our election? Because it is very, 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 very important. You know, the president said something in 2019, which was instructive. President Buhari said something in 2019 that if anybody, former president, yeah, said that, you know, in America, they don't use former for their president. The moment you talk about the president, people look at the tenure of that particular,
that's right,
of that particular president. And he said that anyone that is caught with snatching ballot boxes should be shot because it's a coup. Like I said, it's a coup. So what steps are we going to take to secure that election? And that's the conversation. And that's the conversation the National Assembly must have with the service chief. That's the conversation the National Assembly must have with heads of security agencies in Nigeria. We don't want to see, when it's time to arrest people, we don't want to see people hooded, and then you see like 60 hooded state security personnel just to arrest one person. We want those 60 hooded personnel to secure the ballot, because that's the most treasured asset in a democracy. The most treasured asset is that ballot box and those ballot papers in it. So we want those security agencies. Those are the conversations we must have moving forward in order for us to have a viral, free, and fair democratic society where power comes from the ballot box and not from the manipulated result from the form ECE 8 or ECE 8A or ECE 8B or ECE 8C.
Right. So let's try to look at the build-up, events that actually happened in the build-up to the election in Imo, Kogi, and Bayelsa. Imo, precisely. We saw what the labor union tried to do, with the protest that they brought up, which the governor said that I'm not sure, I really am not, in line or in tune with the reason why you are advancing this, protest, few days to the election. Whereas the local labor union, the state labor union said that they have no problem with the incumbent governor, while the NLC president, Joe Ajaero, said no, that there are issues which the state government had refused to resolve. How do you see all of it? Because it raised the tempo, it raised the fears, it raised the concerns, ahead of the Imo election. How do you see all of the pre-election season, the pre-election problems? How did you see them, impact the election that was just concluded in Imo?
You can't claim to be neutral when you are partisan. Don't forget that the Labour Party has a stake in that particular election. And the NSC chairman is also from Imo State. And so, to a large extent, one could interpret him trying to influence and manipulate the process by trying to paint the opposition, by trying to paint the incumbent now as in a bad light, in the sense that in order to gain ground for where his political interest is. So I have a mixed reaction to that. One, I think that the actions of the Nigerian Labour Congress president was done in bad faith, because that issue could have been addressed before the week to the election, the issue of workers' welfare and the rest of it. And I think that that could have been addressed even without resorting to calling for a rally and the rest of it. We could have had different types of conversation with the leadership of the state and in conjunction with the leadership of the NLC within the state, even though there is an issue with respect to the constitution of the leadership of the NLC in that particular state. So, on one hand, the NLC president did not demonstrate neutrality, did not demonstrate maturity, did not operate on the frequency of what is expected of that particular office. As far as I'm concerned, he brought that office to the barest minimum by his action. That's on the NLC president side. On the part of the government
itself,
because whatever happened, the responsibility of securing lives and property in any given state lies with the government. Lies with the government. Securing the lives and property lies with the government. On the part of the government feels in its responsibility to secure the lives and property of the people of Imo. When I say the people of Imo, quote unquote, don't forget that the NSC president is an Imo State indigene. And if that kind of treatment could be met on the personality, the office, and the person of the NLC president, what could have happened to another person without that stature, without that position in the society? So I think that the government did not live up to its responsibility in protecting the lives and property of its citizenry. So the government has to take its blame concerning that. And I think that and I like the intervention of the Inspector General of Police, his quick intervention with respect to that particular matter will be investigated, and then the police commissioner was changed with respect to that. It puts to question also some of those that are given responsibility, but based on the account of the NSC president, where he said that, well, he was arrested by the police, allegedly, and that it was the police that actually handed him over to thugs who beat him to a pulp that he almost lost his eye. So that left a lot of questions to be answered by the police in that particular state. And like you pointed out, all of us have a responsibility in not building up the tension, in not heightening up the tension within the state. You understand the volatility right. of Imo State. If you know the history of Imo State, you know, in the past, from Achike Undewa to Rocha Okorocha, battle with Opuzodima, emergence or non-emergence, or you recall, I've forgotten this former senator, is the former senator from Imo State, his own, I recall he has one major tribal mark like this. I can't recall his name now. You know, if you understand the dynamics of the Imo politics, yeah, you understand that there's no need for that tension to be heightened. And I'll put a lot of the blame on the shoulders of the NLC president, because he should see better. He's the father of all, and that's the perspective with which he should have looked at that particular matter, and that issue could be addressed before the election or after the election, not just right into the week leading to the election.
And what impact does that have on the integrity of the labor union itself, especially under the current government,
you know, as far as people that are much more concerned about labor, I lost interest in labor union. The last time we had a proactive labor union was when Azan Sumonu was the labor union. That's in the 80s, and then you had the politicization of the labor union when Pascal Bafia took over. And you recall that Pascal Bafia actually wanted to become president, and later he contested to be a senator, I can't forget that particular labor union, which happens to be, he was the president and Adams Oshiomhole was his vice president. I recall many times in Unilag that we went to the labor union office used to be on Ojuelegba Road in Surulere, in Yaba. Once you cross the railway line on the right hand side, that's where you have the National Secretariat on Ojuelegba Road. So as far as I'm concerned, labor lost its value and its relevance as a body with the end of Azan Sumonu as president. You recall Babangida made an attempt to politicize, bringing Ali Chiroma to come ahead labor, whether as sole administrator and rest. That's since when labor has become a political organization. Every labor leader that has left in the past, you don't see labor leaders seeking public offices, seeking to become governor or seeking to become senator. But Pascal Bafia attempted to be, he was the president of Adams Oshiomhole, and the history of Adams Oshiomhole. He's become a governor, he's become a senator, he's even become the national chairman of the political party. So if you want to be in labor activism, you don't participate in active politics. But the reverse is the case now in Nigeria. People want to use the labor platform as a platform to
launch themselves into the political arena.
Into the political arena. And then the way you play labor politics is different from the way they play partisan politics. In partisan politics, there are a lot of sharks and there are a lot of orcs. So if you are not careful on how to navigate the dangerous waters of partisan politics, you'll be consumed. And I think that the labor leader, the NSC president, would have learned his lesson with respect to navigating, but because it was about mixing politics. Though I do not subscribe to the way it was treated. It's inhuman. No Nigerian should be treated. It's inhuman to be treated in that manner. I can't say whether
whatever happened to him was over dramatized, because the night or the day he was allegedly assaulted, we still saw him, although we saw the bulged eyes that was attacked or assaulted, and then the next day we saw that he was they had bandage wounded all over his arms, and people were asking questions. Well, you could carry these arms a day before, and this is not to justify whatever had happened to him. But the police said, that they only took him into protective custody. They did not touch him. They did not beat him. But they only rescued him from whoever had attacked him. But he was saying that
did the police make any arrest? Sometimes, some of the times when the security agencies, when they talk, I'm not sure they think when they talk. Now, if you take somebody into protective custody, that means that there was a threat to his life. Now, who are those that are behind that threat? Did you make any arrest? No, did you make any arrest? That you are trying to protect me. If you are trying to protect me, that means somebody is trying to cause me injuries, trying to cause me harm. Is trying to. So, what measure did the police? Was there a single arrest by the police concerning? That's a spin. It's a spin. They are trying to spin the situation, and I'm not holding brief. I'm not holding brief for. I have one already. I'm not holding brief for him. But if you are taking someone into protective custody, at least you should arrest some. Not a single arrest has been made concerning that.
We will continue on that thought. Let me quickly take some of the information that are coming into a thread from Imo State, where they said that the Independent National Electoral Commission, or Commissioner Supervising Eastern States, Kenneth Okiagu, who is addressing journalists, election observers, and party agents ahead of the exercise. The name of the returning officer for the governorship election in Imo State is Professor Abayomi Sunday Fashino, Vice Chancellor of Federal University of Ekiti. Collation Center, according to them, says that it will open at 2 a.m. And that's different from what we said earlier, whether it would be proper for collation to be opened in the dead of the night, where electorate who are monitoring their votes, their mandates, some of them will be asleep. But those who know that they've got real stake, they are really awake. I checked our page and I see that we've got lots and lots of viewers who are watching our conversation. Means that Nigerians, majority of Nigerians are actually interested in what will come out of these elections. So in Imo State, Collation Center resumes 2 a.m.
Nigeria is playing a World Cup final with Brazil, and the match is 4 a.m. in the morning. What do you think? Do you think a lot of Nigerians will go to bed to watch the World Cup final? They won't go to bed. They will rather wait till 4 a.m. to watch the.
And if there is no power, they run the generator.
They run the gen. So that's the kind of interest that people have for the electoral process. And I can assure you that a lot of people will have gone to bed in Kogi, will have gone to bed in Bayelsa, disappointed that at least not getting some result of some certain local government being announced that the collation has been postponed till 10 a.m. tomorrow morning. And with the one for Imo State, like we pointed out now, once the collation starts by 2 a.m. And another thing I want us to also point out is, you don't stop collation. It's a process. Once you start the collation, they usually take a recess and said we want to go for it. Once you start collation of result, you should not stop until you finish collating that. That's where it is open to manipulation. It is open to different types of influences and interference that are untoward and that are uncalled for.
So, still talking about Imo State, if all of these, because we now had someone like Comrade Uche Naekwe, who is also a member of the NLC, in a faction loyal to Ajaero, saying that he said its goal was to stop the poll scheduled for Saturday, and then you now wonder, just like you said, it was ill-timed for Joe Ajaero to have stage that protest or raise the alarm.
A particular issue.
Does he have
workers' welfare?
Does it have any legal implication, for the labor union itself?
Well, labor.
Because if Uzodinma is re-elected, do you not feel that he might want to lash back at the labor union?
You see, it's usually a love-lost relationship between labor and management,
yeah.
And even government at any level. And those that you are seeing that are fighting today, tomorrow they will be exchanging brick bats, exchanging handshake and the rest of it.
And you'll be wondering, how did it happen? Where were they?
How is this happen? And then they will just put the past behind themselves, and then they move on with it. But as far as we are concerned, we are just talking about this issue so that we don't have the current of this particular issue. We should not be mixing labor matters with politics. You recall that because of that particular matter, the road leading to Abuja Airport was blocked. Now you have an issue in Imo State, transcending to where? To Abuja.
To another state.
To the Federal Capital Territory. It affected the whole of Nigeria.
That's right.
And we shouldn't be having such. You are inflicting the pain on an average Nigerian. People that have legitimate businesses to go about. You know how many appointments were cancelled? Probably lives were lost concerning that. Sometimes when these labor leaders think, they think irrationally. They think at the spur of the moment, and it's about confrontation. There are some things that can be resolved through consultation. Everything is not confrontation. And I believe that if the issue of consultation has been taken into consideration, there's no matter how long you confront, you will always go to the negotiating table to consult. And that solves all the problem. But as far as I'm concerned, I can assure you, once the election is over and the winner is declared, if the governor is returned, elected, himself and Labour, they will sit on the same table, they will continue with their lives. And if his reverse is the case, life will still continue. Don't be surprised that in 2027, you might find both the NSC president and Open Uzodinma in the same boat.
And it doesn't matter whether the labor union declared Open Uzodinma as persona non grata.
Doesn't really matter as far as do you know how many people the labor leaders have declared persona non grata, and then they become ex gratia in the same boat, in the same
That's right.
the same sequence. So, but the bottom line, obviously, don't mix labor issue with politics.
So, still talking, still in Imo State, and talking about these pre-election matters. The indigenous people of Biafra, they said that there will be no election. The sit-at-home, which was cancelled, all of those things. We felt that it was just going to be, chaotic. At the end of the day, it was just going to be attack here and there. But we read that. In fact, our reporter made us understand that some policemen took to their heels when they saw, someone who was marked like an IPOB member, that they ran away. But we didn't feel their impact during this election, did we?
Prior to 2023 election, they said there won't be election in the Southeast. And I recall I was in studio, and I did say that well, election would take place. Election would take place. As far as that group is concerned, I think that the political class and the cultural class, when I mean the cultural class, I'm talking about the religious leaders, I'm talking about the traditional rulers, and other critical stakeholders in that section of the country needs to sit down and have a rethink on what is the best way forward with respect to the threat posed by IPOB to an average person from the East. For example, in many states in the East, there's no work on Monday. Nothing is done on Monday. That's a day is gone unproductive, and it's an ongoing issue. It's a failure of leadership at those levels that I've identified. We saw that threat concerning 2020 election. 2020 election came and it went. We saw that with respect to Imo. We have had elections in Imo. We saw that threat concerning the Anambra election, I think last year, that there won't be election in Anambra, and the election in Anambra that brought in Soludo happened, and Soludo was elected as governor. I think that the leadership, the cultural leadership and the political leadership in the Southeast need to have a rethink on how to engage the brains behind IPOB, because it is drawing the Southeast backward.
In all of this, it's just one thing to say that we've got the indigenous people of Biafra saying theirs, and the government of the day saying theirs. At a point, it appeared that we had two governments. We had two governors in a state, and for all of the Southeast. Is there a way that we can put paid to this agitation? Because they don't see Nigeria as a country. They say they want their own, they want to secede, they want to go on their own. Do you see that as possible? Because not only, they are not the only one. We also have the Yoruba Nation agitation. That may not be as loud as the way IPOB have gone, the IPOB has gone, with their own agitation. Also, killing the people they are trying to salvage, quote unquote salvage. Is there a way we can, put paid to the agitation, what the government will, whether it is negotiation or is it the other way around?
I keep reiterating this. You have political and cultural leadership. For example, there are senators from the Southeast, there are House of Rep members from the Southeast, there are governors from the Southeast, there are local government chairmen from the Southeast, there are commissioners from the Southeast, and then you have traditional rulers from the Southeast, and then you have religious leaders from the Southeast. For example, one of the foremost religious leaders from the Southeast is Father Mbaka. So what are these leadership across the spectrum of politics, economic, religious, and social sphere? What are they doing with respect to addressing the issue? What is really the Southeast issue that is being promoted or projected by IPOB? Secession. If you are calling for secession and then you have membership of the National Assembly, you have membership of the structure of governance across levels of governance in Nigeria. What secession are you calling for? So I think that those that have been elected into office by the people as their representative in Nigeria are not doing enough to address the IPOP question. And I think that they are chickening out, or probably they are playing the ostrich in order not to address this particular issue. Because as far as I am concerned, the leadership at those levels should be able to address some of these things we are talking about. What is the basis for IPOP to break away from Nigeria? So which are the states that want to break away? Does it include the South? Is it the old Eastern region, which includes Rivers State, Bayelsa State, part of Delta State, Cross River State, Akwa Ibom State, and the 5 core southeastern states? Or is it the only core southeastern states? So I've always asked this question: what is the Biafran question? When you're talking about Biafra, Biafra, quote unquote, extends to Port Harcourt by the 1967 declaration, Port Harcourt, Uyo, and the rest of it. But with an average Ibibi man, with an average Calabari man, with an average Ekwere man, with an average Anang man, with an average Efik man, be ready to go with the Southeast as part and parcel of the Biafra of 1967 or the Biafra of 1999 or 2003 or 1996 by virtue of the last time we created states in Nigeria? So it's a question that needed to be answered. It's a question that needed to be answered, and that answer can only come from whatever engagement the political class, the economic class, and the cultural class in the East are willing to. But I can say for a fact, in my basic interaction with people over this Biafran question, I'm not too sure the average Calabari man wants to go. I'm not too sure an Efik man wants to go. I'm not even sure that an Anyama person in Delta, who sometimes is not even regarded as, that question came with respect to whether Okowa, who happens to be an Anyama person, which is Delta Igbo, whether he's an Igbo person or he's not. So these are conversations that needed to be had, and answers need to be provided for it. As far as the issue of Nigeria is concerned, by destiny and by purpose, we are still one. And if you have governors, hold your governors accountable. If you have senators, hold your senators accountable. If you have House of Rep members, hold them accountable. If you have ministers, hold them accountable. What have they done to advance the cause of the Southeast? In what way have they contributed their quota based on the opportunities they've gotten from Nigeria to make the life of an average person from the Southeast better?
In holding them accountable, how do you think that can be better done? Just like we give close marking to the president of the country, as if the president is the one that is running the affairs of the local government. How best do you think Nigerians can hold their governments to account?
You see, that's why I said that we need to go back to the basics. And that's why I said that I'm looking forward to the president. I'm looking forward, litigation is gone. I'm looking forward to the president putting an executive bill before the National Assembly, democratizing the local government. And then so that local government can collect their federal allocation and some of the problems that we have. For example, some of the economic challenges we are having could be addressed at the local government level, where they have access to their resources and they can operate within their own comparative advantage. Some of them will invest in agriculture, but the local government are just an appendage. It is whatever the state gives to them that they collect now. Some will have invested in agriculture. Some will have invested in commodity trading. Some will have invested in trading of artifacts and the rest of it, where they have comparative advantage if they are given the needed autonomy for them to try. So I'm looking forward to the president putting an executive bill before the National Assembly democratizing the local government. That we have a unified local government structure across the 36 states of the Federation, and then we have a fixed tenure and process of electing local government chairman and councillors beyond the present arrangement which you have, which is a caricature of a democratic experience.
But some of these local governments, some of these states, because we had a guest earlier in the day who was saying that the number of local governments given to their state is very small. Bayelsa, in particular, said, "How can you say that 8 local governments is what is due to Bayelsa? If states in the north, for instance, can have up to 44 local governments, why can't they? And for over land mass, why is their own water mass not as important, where Nigeria, gets its crude oil from and all of that?" So he's asking, although he admitted that they've got little land mass, so maybe that's the reason why the 8 local governments are there. But he's asking for more. So is it possible that some of these states get more local governments, regardless of whether the land mass is enough?
They've
got.
This is an area which I'm passionate about. Lagosian, for example, my state is shortchanged.
Okay.
Lagos is shortchanged. You travel through the length and breadth of Ikorodu local government. Ikorodu used to be a division. We have 5 divisions in Lagos State: Ikeja division, Ikorodu division, Ekpe division, Lagos division, and then Badagry division. The interesting thing, Ikorodu division, with the exception of Koshofe, which used to be part of Shomolu Koshofe, with the exception of Koshofe, that's the only substantive local government. Shomolu used to be part of Lagos mainland that you have from Ikorodu division as local government. So you look at the length and breadth of Ikorodu, for example. I've argued that we should use the representative in the House of Rep as a yardstick. For example, when Jigawa and Kano were together, both Lagos State and Jigawa, they had 15 local governments. Now, Jigawa State, even Kano State has 44 local government. I think Jigawa has about 31 or something like that local government. Now, in Kano State has 24 House of Rep members. Lagos State has 24 House of Rep members. That's the highest. That's the highest. Now compare for the 4 local government of Kano with that of Lagos State, and there are so many resources that you share in the nation on the basis of the local government, basis. As far as I'm concerned, Lagos State should have nothing less than 40 local government. Move Lagos State in terms of population, in terms of what have you. When Jigawa and Kano were together, Lagos State population was much more than Jigawa and Kano. Now that particular state now has 71 compared to Lagos that has 20. Or you want to situate it home, right, you bring it to Osun State. Osun State has 30 local government, but I think it has 9 House of Rep members. Lagos has 20 local government. It has 24 House of Rep. In terms of representation based on the House of Rep members, which is based on population, Lagos and Kano has the same number of House of Rep members. I think that we need to have that conversation in terms of, that's where the issue of this restructuring comes in. That's how many local governments should we have per each state. Don't forget that some of these states and some of these local government were as a result of military fiat. And then if you look at the composition of the Supreme Military Council, then you discover that a certain region has more representation in the Supreme Military Council than other region at that particular point in time when these local government were created.
That's more of a conversation that we'll keep having, as we look forward to a Nigeria that is, strong, viral, and everyone is better represented in terms of the local governments, House of Representatives, senatorial district, etc. Jide Johnson, Chief Lecturer, NIJ, thank you so much. I'm not saying bye. I just want you to catch your breath and, sip some water while we take some break. You're watching TVC News, and we've been talking about the elections in Imo, Bayelsa, and Kogi, doing several analyses from different angles as to how it affects you as Nigerians and what will definitely come out of it at the end of the day. Just stay with us. We'll be right back in a moment.
Arranged line for everything is going well. But the starting up time is 8:30 a.m. So we are waiting for the time to get to 8:30. So that's the moment.
let me congratulate the three states that have elections today: Bayelsa State, Imo State, and Kogi State, and which all these states successful election, peaceful conduct of elections. But basically, because this is an off-season election, and I get worried about the issue of off-season elections. And I will use this unique opportunity to plead with the National Assembly that we need to block this off-season election. It's very odd. It's not a global best practice. A country can elect their people at different times, like America. Some countries they do not elect everybody at the same time. But any time they go on to conduct the election, they elect everybody that's supposed to be elected. If we continue with this trend of off-season elections, based on the interpretation of our laws by the judicial officer, it will come to a time that the presidential election in Nigeria may be off-season. Probably that's the time that all of you media people and others should be worried. Look at the American system. Everybody knows when the American elections will be. That's standard practice in other countries. When I say presidential election in Nigeria may be off-season one day, some people may get say, why, how? It almost happened in 2007. I contested as a running mate to late President Yaradua. You know that election, the 7 justices that presided over the case, 3 of them, in their own judgment that the election be annulled, 4 of them sustained the election. And that is why we stayed. If one has crossed over, by now the presidential election in Nigeria will have been off-season election. And it is not the best for a country. And there's easy things to do to make sure that other states, now we have 7 states that are off-season. We need to stop there. And where possible, these 7 states too can be migrated back to fall in line with the other states, that the National Assembly can do that. That is my message for the National Assembly, my message for Nigerians today. On the other hand, I wish the election successful. I've been monitoring what is happening in Bayelsa State. Almost ask people across the local governments. And for now, no major things that will get worried, apart from the part of Nembe local government, the Basambri part of Nembe local government. I've been in conflict for quite some time before the election. Apart from that, I think the elections are going on well, but we cannot conclude until the end of the 14th. So once again, I thank you and I wish you well.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
The next mic.
Well.
Massive, the people are here. You know, even the presidential elections and the local assembly elections, the turnout was not as much as this. And I told you people that because it was not my election, I know there's always emotion and sentiment to politics everywhere it is. So you have seen a massive turnout. So we thank Annex also for the process so far, but we are concerned about what is happening in Nembe and a few other places. We pray that the security agencies and all the other agencies involved will do the right things so that people should not be disenfranchised. Election is a ballot affair, not a bullet affair. All of them have 6 as their letters, but that doesn't mean that they are the same words. Bullet and ballot have 6 letters, but it doesn't mean that they're the same word. So people should make it a civic responsibility, not a military responsibility. So we want to encourage the Bayelsa people, the Nembe people, who have always had this cliche. For every electoral circle, there's always a violence in Nembe. I think we are becoming a little bit too kind a name for them to bear. So we want to plead with all the actors and actresses, because there's not only actors, the actresses there, and they should see the sword and allow things to break. We are confident that we are going to coast to victory because the candidate of the other party have actually nothing to tell us. He was here for 5 years, and all we could hear is that I will do again. He said it was 45 years, as he was too young. All of us know that a fool at 40 is forever. So somebody says it's after. So I think we are comfortable and confident, and the process is good on smoothly here. And I encourage everybody to remain peaceful and law abiding.
That one of the INEC officials who was taking some materials to one particular local government, that's Sabama. They were supposed to take a boat from Amasoma to Sabama, and because of that, some hoodlums attacked and took her away and the ballot materials. Since that last night, I've deployed all my tactical team all out. We are trying to fish out who did this heinous act. As at this morning, I got an information that the man's name is one Jonah Adaka. I contacted a few of people that we have known, but nobody was able to reach him. So we are still on the street. Then there was a ghost in Harp, and fortunately, nobody died in that, but the electoral materials sank. Generally, you can see the service commanders, we have been meeting. Prior to this time, we have had several engagements, and we are all together now. We are moving around now. This is the first polling unit we are getting into. And if you see when we were moving in here, you see that people are going about their lawful businesses. Those who are voting are voting, those who are working around are working. Generally, Jenegua for now is very calm. And reports from other areas, aside from these isolated cases, there has not been any serious issues.
I feel great. I have great hopes for our democracy, and I believe that Mr. President intends to give us a free and fair election. No, a lot of people will come. Even my own family, my brothers are still coming. Yeah, at first they were feeling threatened by the unusual, security movement, presence of armored personnel carriers and so on, moving everywhere. Number of soldiers. I've never seen such number of soldiers and policemen before in our vicinity. So, but we've tried to reassure them that they're here for their own protection. They're here to protect the process. So they'll be coming out. Yeah, we've also heard in Olu that they moved the Osu electoral materials. They moved it to a particular traditional ruler's house. We're still trying to verify those the information. And also, we hear that they are cluster voting. So these things, we need to verify them before we go public. Well, going forward, my major concern is that we still believe that their plan, like we've been shouting in the media all this while, they have so many thugs camped in so many hotels. We've alerted the security agencies. They have not taken any action, and we think that their plan is to hijack before the collation centers, and then try to insert all the results we hear that they have written. Well, INEC, they are doing very well so far. You see, INEC will be planning their own. The bandits will be planning their own. So let's see how. I'm waiting to see. So I believe that is the right thing to do. If I was the INEC chairman, I would like to redeem myself with this election. Okay.
Process so far so good. The process is going smoothly.
Yes.
Judging by my own polling here, INEC is happy in terms of organizational arrangement and material arrangement. We hope the way it's going smoothly here, it will be the same across the whole 2005 polling units in Kogi. So, we're sure of it.
So far, so good. The optics shows that, yes, the process is going on smoothly. Aside from those things that are happening behind the scene, where money is being exchanged with votes, people are watching and then writing down names and giving tallies to be collecting 12,000, 10,000. It's happening everywhere. And you know, some of us are people who have decided that we will not express ourselves violently, otherwise we would have stopped the process. In the eyes of it, we know what is happening everywhere. Voting is going on.
Well, there you have it, sight and sound that we've bringing to you with latest information from what transpired in the off-cycle, off-season elections in Imo, Bayelsa, and Kogi. There's so many issues that we've actually put up for discussion with our guests from morning till up until now, and we're still going to be here up until dawn, and our guest will still be here with us. And then from there, we also take it all through the day until the election is finally done with. You can always trust us with all of the latest information. Recall that we told you that the Collation Center in the state headquarters in Imo State says it will open in about 5 minutes time or 8 minutes time. That's 2 a.m. This morning. INEC National Commissioner supervising Eastern State, Kenneth Okeogo, spoke with journalists, election observers, and party agents ahead of the exercise. He said the name of the returning officer for the governorship election in Imo State is Professor Abayomi Sunday Fashina, who is the Vice Chancellor of Federal University of Ekiti. So Collation Center is set to open at the top of the hour. We'll be monitoring this with you. Also, recall I've been speaking with my guest, Jide Johnson, who also did a lot of analysis, made a lot of analysis regarding the elections in these states, Imo, Bayelsa, and Kogi. But here is where I'll be drawing the curtain for my own self, where I'll be handing over to my colleague at the top of the hour, Jumoke, who will be continuing this conversation. There's still lots and lots of conversations that we need to bring to the fore for you, for your own analysis based on all of the things that have transpired so far in Imo, Kogi, and Bayelsa. The issue of the suspension of 9 local governments in Kogi State, and that of also collation centers in Bayelsa as well as Kogi, which is expected to resume at 10 a.m. In the morning. And here, Imo State is set to start its own collation of results at 2 a.m. Just stay with us on TVC News. Bye for now.
In the early hours of today, residents in Imo, Bayelsa, and Kogi states stepped out to cast their ballot to decide who becomes governor for the next 4 years. Governor of Bayelsa State, Doyodiri, was one of the early voters. The governor arrived his polling unit at Unit 4, Ward 6, Kolokuma, Opokuma local government, where he voted and commended INEC for its level of professionalism.
I think this is an improvement on all the other elections that I've participated on. And very seamless, very fast. And if it continues like this, then I want to believe that INEC is improving on not only their facilities, the training of the personnel that are handling the process.
His deputy, Lawrence Erujakwe, also cast his ballot at Ofoni Ward 4, Unit 6. The governorship candidate, Udeng Seradiri, after voting at his polling unit, sought the intervention of INEC and the security agency in the fight against vote buying.
So far, so good. The optics shows that, yes, the process is going on smoothly. Aside from those things that are happening behind the scene.
Governorship candidate Mepre Silva also voted at his polling unit in Brass local government area, where he commented on the exercise. Former President Goodluck Jonathan joined other residents of Bayelsa to vote in his polling unit in Ogbia constituency. In Kogi State, Murtala Ajaka voted at his polling unit at Ida local government, where he commended the presence of security officials.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, so far so good. The INEC arrangement is perfect. Everything about this arrangement from the beginning to where we are now is perfect. But the only issue we're having now, the result we're getting from the central, precisely Okene, Okehi, and Adavi. The original result sheet is missing.
Usman Ododo and Leke Abejide also cast their ballot at their various polling units.
I want to use this medium to commend the INEC management for putting in place a very transparent, hitch-free electoral processes. And again, the security agencies, they are doing very wonderfully.
So far, so good. The process is going smoothly. Judging by my own polling unit here, the INEC is perfect in terms of organization, arrangement, and material delivery. We hope the way it's going smoothly here, it will be the same across the whole 3,508 polling units in Kogi State.
In Imo State, Governor Hope Uzodinma, who voted at about 11:44 a.m., expressed satisfaction at the turnout of voters and the conduct of the exercise.
The conduct is very impressive. I want to commend INEC. I want also to commend the security agencies with the kind of deployment they have done and how orderly the environment has become, and to the ugly expectation that the environment will not be there for voting to take place. You can see that the INEC has risen to the occasion and everything seems to be very normal.
Governorship candidate Ethan Achonu advised voters not to be intimidated by the presence of security officials who are out to protect voters.
At first, they were feeling threatened by the unusual, the security movement, presence of armored personnel carriers and so on, moving everywhere. Number of soldiers. I've always seen such number of soldiers and policemen before in our vicinity. So, but we've tried to reassure them that they're here for their own protection.
So far, residents and election observers in most polling units commend the early arrival of election materials as well as conduct of the exercise.